Hi, Tom. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how we can think about self improvement. Because everything that we see, from advertisement to all the imagery around us, is telling us that we need to, we're not happy unless we have this, or if we lose weight, or grow taller, or, all these things. And I know that as Vedic meditators, we become more blissful inside and we're not as focused on the external. But I wondered, it's still relevant to continue to improve ourselves, I imagine, even within the
Yeah.
Vedic worldview.
The self is quite capable of accelerating its evolution from lowercase s to capital S. It's moving in that direction anyway. Most of what we do outside of meditation, most of what we do if we're not yet meditators, is inadvertently, and I'll put that word in just so you don't feel too much guilt, inadvertently resist evolution. Evolution is, as it were, trying to happen to improve you, to make you wiser, to make you more relevant, to make you more everything. But because we have unnecessary worries and anxieties about things that are never going to come to pass, and we have so much stress and we have so much overthinking that without realizing we're doing it, we actually end up resisting the evolutionary process. So what happens when we practice Vedic meditation? We learn how to let go of a tendency not just to overthink, but we let go of a tendency to think at all. Let's just go to the non-thinking field, the consciousness field. Now, when we do that, when we let go and we end up in that deep inner silence in meditation, the body rests and the body releases stress. We've talked about that a lot. Then what happens is you've minimized resistance to a thing that's already been going on. It's been wanting to happen. In fact, it may be overdue. So people who first learn Vedic meditation, they'll often say in their first year of practice, there was revolutionary change. It's kind of like the race horses were all at the gates, champing at the bits to have the gates open so the race could start and they could take off. And, so then evolution may, in the first year of practice of Vedic meditation, may really take off. Revolutionary change may be better described as radical change begins to happen. And for those of you who are worried about changing too much, if you learn Vedic meditation, don't worry. It's all good. Just think about, if you want to know what the character of that change will be, think about all the things about yourself that you know are the very best things. You know that you have some really good qualities and what your very best things in. Even if you kind of spend 23 hours a day in self-loathing, at least for 1 hour of the day, you have some redeeming qualities that you might cover and have a look at. Like, I might be completely, my life's totally worthless, but I do have a little bit of a winsome smile. Or, I have, everything else is completely terrible, but here and there I have a good turn of phrase. So you know the things about you that are good. Now imagine those things expanding and accelerating and growing and magnifying. And all of us, all my listeners also know that we have things about us that are not our most desirable qualities. There's a nice way of putting it. The things about us that we would prefer not to be there. Weaknesses that we have and so on and so forth. Shortfall and, tendencies that aren't helpful. Imagine all of those things disappearing. So you become very weak and bad, and you become very strong and good. You learn Vedic meditation, and all of your best things come to the fore and expand and expand and expand and take over. And all of your worst things drop off like fleas dropping off of an animal or something. It's just like unnecessary parasites dropping off of you. That's the change that occurs. And it is revolutionary and radical even in the first year or so of practice. So I'm going to call that self-improvement, but not because you decided I'm now going to improve in this way, that way, and the other. It's just that you have stopped resisting evolution. When you don't resist evolution, there's a surge of evolution. Once that surge is over with, then there's a flow. You know, if you break a dam, then first of all, there's a great surge. Out comes all of the water that had backed up into a lake. And, you know, there's a surge. But then the river just flows after that. A flowing river of evolution. And provided that you keep up your practice of Vedic meditation twice a day, the river of evolution continues to flow and flow and flow. And it's all good. So we have, you know, a surge followed by flow. And what's causing that in a Vedic meditator? It's the natural tendency of life that was wanting to happen all the time anyway, but it couldn't because it got blocked by stress. Stress blocked it. Now you remove the stress, and there's just a flow of self-improvement. The self-improvement really is the movement from I am just a little human being and my mind is a creation of my brain and it's all going to die in a matter of decades. Got a few decades, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm gone. You know, and you know how fast those decades go by. Oh, 10 Christmases, you know, gone. 10 summers, gone. You know, how did that happen? You know, oh, I'm on my way to death. You know, that's all I am. I'm just a little squishy, mushy thing that's like some kind of weird fluke that happened on one little planet in a giant universe that's totally indifferent. And, you know, I'm, you know, just, I hope that I get to have the experiences I want to have. I get to hope I create the memories I want to have, but what does it matter anyway? Because my brain will die and all the memories are gone anyway. You know, it's so easy to go defeatist, right? If we start thinking like that. Or, you know, I'll offer you the alternative. You are the universe having a human experience. The best and most brilliant cosmologists, astrophysicists, cosmologists in the world are all in a club. It's not a formal club, but they are in a club, a camp of thinking. They are members of the consciousness revolution. And the consciousness revolution goes something like this, you know, that our universe clearly is in a process of attempting to combine atoms and molecules in such a way that they can spring into life, spring into bios, B-I-O-S. It's the Greek word for life, you know, to spring from being inanimate matter into unicellular organisms that then expand and expand and expand and expand and end up being us, you know, all with our iPads and things. So what's the universe trying to do? It seems to be thematic that it's bio-friendly. The universe, and that's why we're looking around everywhere to say, oh, you know, the moon of Europa that goes around Jupiter looks like a candidate for life. It has a crust of ice all around the surface of it. And just under that ice, it has water that's being warmed by jets that are coming from its molten center. And it looks from the gases that are coming from it that it might even have bacterial life in it. How amazing. Why are we so amazed by this? Because, first of all, it indicates we're not alone in our little blue dot that's in a massive universe of trillions of galaxies. We're not only not alone, but there's a theme. The universe appears to be causing life to come into being. And where life comes into being for a sufficient number of millions of years, it ends up being like us, looking out at the universe. This is the universe, we are the universe, contemplating itself and discussing itself with each other. We're discussing the universe. Who are we? We're star stuff filled up with water. You know, 86% water and the rest of the percentage carbon. Carbon and water, you know, bags of of carbon filled up with water. And here we are, talking, and we're the universe talking about itself. Let me offer that suggestion to you. Not some kind of little weird randomistic glitch that only exists on one blue dot. Since it's more likely that I am the universe having a human experience, let me explore that proposition, particularly the universe side of this human experience thing. My humanity is being enjoyed by my deep inner big self. This is self-improvement. Self-improvement is movement from restrictive sense of lowercase s, self, to a more magnanimous view of what the self actually is, based on two things: direct experience and the logic of it. A very good teacher or professor, scientist of any kind, knows that there's two elements of bringing their students into a body of knowledge. You have conceptual delineation, which is theoretical construct, and then you have experimentation, which is referred to as empirical evidence, empiricism, direct experience. And so you can have the Einsteins of the world who will propose a special theory of relativity and win a Nobel Prize for it, and there were howls of outcry back in the early 1900s. Why? No experiments had been done to prove his theory, and nobody knew if it was true or not. And so then, of course, the experimentalists went out and began doing the experiments to see whether or not his special theory of relativity, for which he won the Nobel Prize and whose prize money he'd already spent in its entirety, whether or not it was true. And of course, there were some people who wanted to knock him off his perch and, to force him to have to consider taking out a loan and giving back the Nobel Prize money. Not all of them. Some of them wanted to knock him off his perch. Others were just impartial. Let's see if what this Einstein guy is talking about actually turns out to be true. And long story short, experiments were done, telegram was sent, his assistant retrieved the telegram, took it to Dr. Einstein and said, hallelujah, they proved that your theory was right. He didn't even look up from his book where he was writing. And his assistant said, excuse me, but what would you have done if it was wrong? And without even looking up, he said, I would have been sorry for the dear Lord because my theory was correct. And when asked, how did you know that? He said, I have my deep inner cosmic sense. And then he said, I am made of universe stuff. The universe cannot behave in ways that I can't understand. Now there you have it. Universe having a human experience. And, let's put it this way. I could say, since that's what you are, but I'll be a little more gracious than that and a little bit more academically flexible here, and I'll say, if that's what you are. If that's what you are, let me propose to you that the best form of self-improvement is to explore that idea with empiricism, that is to say direct experience, that's the lab work, the experimentation. Meditation is the empiricism. And then good conceptual delineation, that's what we're doing right now. Conceptual delineation means, taking observations and using theoretical construct to describe what your observations are, so that you can take that idea and place it in a different place and see if it works there. Because if a theory is correct, if it turns out that light is obedient to a particular speed when moving through space, if that's true, it has to be true everywhere in the universe. Otherwise, it's not a universal truth. It's a very localized, proximate truth. But it turns out it's a universal truth. Light simply cannot, from any point of observation, travel any faster than a certain absolute speed. If you have a flashlight that's riding on a rocket that's going, half the speed of light, and the flashlight is shining light out of its end, that light coming out of the flashlight cannot go any faster than 186,000 miles per second. It doesn't matter that it's riding on something that's going half that speed already. That light can only travel at 186,000 miles per second. If you take the flashlight off of the little rocket and shine the light out of the end of the flashlight, the light still travels at 186,000 miles per second. It doesn't matter what angle you look at it from. It doesn't matter if it's coming towards you, going away from you. It always travels at the same speed everywhere in the universe. It's an absolute law. And, so this is fascinating. What is it that is an absolute truth? Something that is absolutely universal. So we are interested in the consciousness equivalence of that. What is it that is true, that is non-variable? It turns out there's only one thing, and it's easy for it to be non-variable. You go beyond thought entirely, and there are no sequences anymore. If there's no sequences, there's no time. There are no events, there are no objects. An absolute consciousness field. It's the only thing that's capital T, true. Everything else is a relative temporal truth. So we're interested in these things, We want to have both empiricism and good conceptual delineation. We want to meditate and have the direct experience, and we want a really fabulous way of understanding it, good theoretical construct, so that we can make it applicable to situations in life. If this is true, then that must also be true, like that. Now, if that's all too highfalutin for my listeners, forgive me. And let me just say, Vedic meditation is a fantastic stress management technique. You close your eyes twice a day and you settle down into a deep rested state, deeper than sleep, and all your stresses and fatigue get released. Fantastic. Done. You don't have to think about it any more than that. I had a famous client once who said to me, all I want is faster reaction times. I don't want any of the hocus pocus. I don't want any of the voodoo. He was an athlete. And I said, I'll gladly teach you to meditate, and I promise I won't give you any of the voodoo or any of the hocus pocus. And he meditated for a few weeks, and then he said, my reaction times sped up very measurably. Fantastic. I said, you got what you came for. Keep doing it. It'll just keep improving. Another 3 weeks went by, and one day he came to me and he said, I was sitting in my meditation, and the whole relative world in my body all disappeared. And I experienced this vast, unbounded consciousness state, and I became that. What's that? And I said, hocus pocus warning. If you want me to answer that question, we're going to have to dive into the voodoo and the hocus pocus, which you got me to promise that I wouldn't give you any of that. So are you kind of lifting the lid on that now? Because that's an experience that meditation is designed to produce. The faster reaction times are just a desirable outcome, a desirable side effect. Desirable side effect. That's the effect. The real effect is the thing you just experienced. And so conceptual delineation, Vedic meditation can simply be a stress management technique. There's no problem with that. It's the best stress management technique. But, keep practicing it. It's going to lead to total fulfillment in life and revolutionary change in every good way for you.